You want to develop a closer relationship to others but seem to struggle past having a casual relationship or friendship. If this sounds familiar, today's video should provide some insight as to how you can build a more meaningful relationship with others. If you find today's video informative and want more content like this, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Many people yearn to develop a close relationship to others. It's totally normal, as human beings are social creatures and therefore crave emotional connections with one another. However, developing that tight relationship is significantly harder than many seem to assume. The idea for this video came recently after I came across a comment on a video where someone admitted that they struggle to make deep or meaningful relationships with others. This commenter wasn't an anomaly, as many people struggle with this, and with the growth of technology and particularly social media, the deep relationships are ever harder to make. So where do you begin? Well, the first step is to identify who you want to develop a more meaningful relationship with and why. This is critical to understand, as the depth of a relationship isn't necessarily built on the foundations you might think, but the emotional depth and connection between you and the other person. You might think that having the same interests as someone might be a good starting point to building a strong relationship, and while this can play a role, it isn't the determining factor. This is because ultimately shared interests can be superficial, and when you aim to develop a deeper connection, you struggle to develop a deeper understanding with the other person. Instead, consider whether you can talk to the person about your emotional state and are comfortable when opening up to them and putting yourself in a position of vulnerability. Likewise, are you prepared to do the same if they want to open up to you? If the answer is yes, then there's a potential for a meaningful relationship there. However, remember that relationships are built both ways, so they have to be prepared to make the same commitments you are to develop that deep relationship. To give an example of a personal experience, when I was at university, I had developed friendships with two individuals. On the one hand, I had a friend who had many of the same interests as I did and was on the same course as myself. We immediately clicked and hit it off, and for those years developed a strong relationship. However, due to a variety of factors, we had difficulties in understanding each other's emotional responses and today barely keep in touch, or if you will, we're Facebook friends. Now, during the same period, I had another friendship with someone who on the face of it didn't seem to have many shared interests to myself. However, the significant difference was we developed a strong emotional bond in our relationship, meaning the depth of our friendship was much less about superficial interests and much more about understanding and supporting one another. I'm still very close to this person today, and while we both live in different countries, we make concerted efforts to keep in touch, and when we do, we still share a meaningful emotional connection. Don't be fooled into thinking superficial factors are the defining features to a deep relationship. In reality, a key factor is how well attuned you are emotionally to one another. Which is the next point. You have to understand that deep relationships are built on emotions and being prepared to share a strong emotional connection to one another. Studies in the past have shown that men traditionally develop more relations over the course of their life, but most are often superficial. Women, on the other hand, are shown to build less relationships in their lives, but many become long-lasting friendships because socially women are more emotionally empathetic to one another. Emotional connections are key to the depth of a relationship, which leads to the third point about building a deep relationship, which is you have to be prepared to put yourself in a position of vulnerability if you want to develop a strong relationship. Sharing your emotions means you show the core of who you are as an individual to others and put yourself in a position of vulnerability. This is why relationship breakups can be so difficult to manage, as people hurt each other after having emotionally opened up to one another. There's a huge sense of loss, as the individuals you felt so close to are no longer there for you. Therefore, understand that by building a deeper relationship, you put yourself in a position of vulnerability, and therefore you need to trust the person you're building the relationship with. This is fundamental to understand. Trust is built over time. Don't just open up completely to someone you've just met, as it can be overwhelming to people, but also you need to put the foundations for something deeper in place. Start slow, develop an understanding, and as you feel more comfortable with the other person, then you can start to peel back the layers to show more of yourself. My friendship I mentioned earlier didn't grow in the space of weeks or months, but rather it's been built over years of growth. Emotional connections don't come easily, so be patient and don't force the matter. It will come naturally if you understand the factors that form a meaningful relationship. Finally, during the time you build your relationship, grow through experience. It's through shared activities and experience that deep connections are built. This might be spending time alone together, doing activities together, or even based on circumstance. For example, my job can at times be stressful and others working with me have to deal with a lot of the same pressures I do. As a result, we've developed a strong relationship as they understand that if the situation calls for it, I've got their back in hard times, and likewise I know if needed, I can trust in their support if I need it. This is particularly evident when you look at sports teams where players often develop stronger relationships as they are all working towards a common goal. Developing a deep or meaningful relationship isn't easy, but it's completely normal to wish for it. Understand the different factors we've covered in this video, including identifying the right people to develop the relationship with. Understand that emotional connections are critical, and this is only possible if you're both willing to put yourselves in a position of emotional vulnerability, which can only happen if you have trust in one another. Take your time in building the relationship. It's a long haul game, and finally share some experiences together which allow you to develop your emotional connection. By doing this, you'll be well on your way to developing your own deep, meaningful relationships. Thanks for watching. Do you have deep or meaningful relationships or struggle to connect with others? Please let me know in the comments section below. If today's video was informative, please share the video with people who might find it interesting as we aim to build stronger relationships with one another.